Today we're going to talk about, do you have to sell your home before you qualify for a new home? We're going to do a few things today. I'm going to kind of go over how you can actually qualify to buy a new home before you sell your home. And then Mike will go over what it takes to get your home prepped to list it on the market. So basically, what I like to do when I have somebody come to me that is purchasing a home and they said, well, I need to sell this home first. I try to qualify you at both payments, meaning that departing home as well as the new home. That will allow you to go ahead and purchase a home. And then what can happen is once you purchase your home, put your home on the market, sell it, then you can actually do what's called a recast onto your mortgage.
So I have a question. So
Sure.
In other words, the buyer wouldn't have to make what's called a contingency offer. They could
Correct.
actually make the offer, purchase the home, and then sell their home wherever else it may be. Is that right?
Correct. So the contingency part of it that he's talking about, a lot of times if there's a home for sale and an offer comes over that a realtor writes and it says contingent upon the sale of their home, a lot of times that would put you in not the front running position because you have to sell your home to qualify for that home. Yes?
It's certainly a weaker offer. So preferably when you go into the buy process, you want the seller to see that you can perform or purchase their home without any additional contingencies, which is why we call it a contingency offer. So in other words, I'm not going to buy your house only if my house sells. I will buy your house, period, and then I can dispose of my house. And your lender, Staci, in this case, would be able to make sure that you qualify in order to do that. It's a much, much stronger position to negotiate from.
So a contingency, what does that mean? I mean, does that like...
So in the strictest sense, what you're telling the seller is that I would like to buy your house. I'd like to buy it for this amount of money, but I have to sell my home first because I either cannot or do not want to purchase your home without selling my home.
Got it. Okay, so basically, I know what a contingency is. I was just kind of asking. But anyway, it goes back to if you can qualify at both payments, the great thing is a couple things. I'm going to jump all over the place for a second. So if we qualify you at both payments, that's great. That's the cleanest. You would come up with your lowest down payment that you would need based on a purchase price. Could be as little as 5%. If you're over the jumbo of the 726.2, you're looking at a 10% down payment. So take those two into consideration. If we can qualify you at both payments, once you close, you can turn around and recast. And I know I mentioned that before, but I want to explain what a recast is. A recast is once your departing home sells, you've already closed on your new home, but then you can come in and take the funds from the sale of that departing home, add it to the principal payment of your new home, and the lender will do what's called a recast and do your lower payment based on the new balance of that mortgage. It's actually pretty cool. A lot of people don't really realize it's out there. It's about a $250 to a $300 fee. It is not a refinance. It is a recast.
So your rate stays the same?
Correct.
So they're not going to get you and then like raise your rate in order to do that, or?
No. Nope.
Nice.
Nope, it's just strictly a recast, not anything else other than a recast. I think a lot of times that the wording of it is not taken correctly, and that's why when people call and say, I want to refinance, it's not a refinance. I want to whatever, it's not. It's a recast. Anyway, that's a good way to, you will still be able to have a low loan amount on your new purchase because you'll recast it, then you'll have what you want. You'll be able to purchase a home without a contingency offer, which is a good thing. And then you will be able to have the payment that you wanted at the beginning. Second thing is, if you were deciding that you were going to rent your departing home, you could do that, and we could, if you haven't been a landlord before, we can basically wipe out the payment. It's an even an even slate on the payment, and then you would just qualify for the new one. We couldn't count rent, but we can actually wash the payment. That's another plus, I think, if you wanted to keep your other home as well.
So I just want to make sure I understand recast completely. So in other words, you qualify for both homes, so you can make the purchase on my side, on the real estate side, and then you sell your other house, and let's say you net, I don't know, $100,000 for the sake of the argument, whatever it may be. You can then apply that to the loan that you took out.
Principal.
To the principal. So effectively, and that lowers your payment, but it keeps all the other terms of the loan and the same, right?
Correct.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. Washing the payment. So if you rent the other house, then while you can't count the rent, it just doesn't count as a liability. In other words,
It counts as a liability, but the full payment isn't against you.
so that would affect your current terms on your loan to be plus? I mean, in other words, you'd get a better rate because you're not counting that debt?
No.
Or how does that work?
No.
Explain it to me, please.
So basically, what he's asking is, when I say wash the payment, terminology is probably incorrect, but basically, if you have a $1,500 payment, and let's say rent is $3,500, we would take 75% of the $1,500 and be able to put that towards the payment, which lowers your debt.
Okay, so by lowering your debt,
Does that make
your
sense?
debt to income ratio,
Right.
we're going to get a little bit in the weeds here for a second, but I'm trying to understand. Your debt to income ratio would
I don't
improve.
explain well.
No, you do a great job. I don't understand everything
Yeah.
that you've forgotten. So your debt to income ratio would be better, and therefore you'd get more favorable terms, whatever those may be, right?
Pretty much, yes. You could actually qualify for both homes.
Okay.
I'm not going to say better terms.
Well, but if you can qualify for both homes, that's better than not being able to qualify for both homes, which I
Correct.
would say that would be a better term,
Correct.
but I don't know.
Term.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to let Mike go over what you need to do prior to listing your home.
Yeah, so you probably understand intuitively what goes into most of this process. I would offer to you that there's some very important things to do. One is find a person, a realtor who, if you know them, do you like where they live? Do you like the kind of home they have? Because that's the kind of advice they're going to give you. I know this sounds really strange, but that's the kind of advice they're going to give you when you go to list. You can overspend on listings. I've seen realtors go in and demand that you replace all your countertops. And while that may be something depending on the price point, my fear and my advice to my sellers is always, let's see how much we can do without spending any additional money. And that includes staging as well. The odds are, if you have a realtor you trust, listen to them. And if they tell you to remove things and move stuff around and do this, open the windows and clean the windows and do things like that, just do it. So there was an article years and years ago, not an article, it was a book called Freakonomics, and Levitt, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the author, and they offered up that couched it in the idea that it was a scam, that realtors make more money on their own homes than they make for you when you sell your home.
That's so not true.
Well, I guess it could be if you look. All things happen in this world. All things exist. Are there good realtors and bad realtors and good teachers and bad teachers? Yes, of course there are. There's always good and bad to everything. So I'm not going to tell you that there are not realtors that don't maybe underprice your home and with the hopes of selling it quickly and getting paid because they get paid either way. But what I will tell you is that is a minority of us. Honestly, we're good people as a whole, right? It's that 5% rule. We'll talk about that later. But bottom line is that it makes sense to me, and it made sense to me as I read the book, that of course a realtor is going to make more money on their house than their seller would make, as a general observation. And in fact, that number was only about 1%. So think about that for a second. But because the realtor is going to take their own advice. And all too often, sellers just don't. They're obstinate. They, I shot all those elk and I want them on the wall. Or my baby pictures of my great grandchildren are important to leave up, or I think the carpet's good enough for me, even though there's, tracks all over it. I mean, that kind of thing. And where the realtor comes in as an objective third party, and really the value we bring to the table is that we're a different set of eyes, and we say, you know what, it would be worthwhile to wipe off the switch plates or maybe clean the baseboards. Yeah.
So what he's getting at is when you want a buyer to walk in your home and visualize their life, not visualize yours.
No, absolutely.
And the thing is, like, we all have emotion with our home, right? We have our family pictures. We have, like you're saying, the elk, whatever. But it's critical that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that any person who walks in your home can visualize all of their decor. They can visualize their family making their own memories in your home, not adding to yours.
All too often, yeah, I think that's right on. All too often, sellers, in their own mind, they want to show everybody else how amazing their house is. Yes and no. What you really want is you want to show not only how amazing your home is, but allowing the buyer to envision their furniture in the corner and their drapes up. And here's another thing that kind of comes with this is I often tell sellers, in fact, I always tell my sellers, don't be present when the home is being shown, because you want the buyers to be able to speak freely, and they're going to talk about how they hate your wallpaper, or they don't like the paint, or the couch is ridiculous, or whatever, and you're going to take that personally, and you shouldn't. The fact they're even talking about those things is good, because what they're thinking is, I can change the paint. I can put my couch over there instead of in front of the fireplace. You want that type of freedom for the buyer to see themselves in your home, because remember, at the end of the day, the goal is to sell your home for the most amount of money that the market is willing to provide. And if you listen to your realtor, assuming they've done this more than once, they can guide you. And really, that is what we do. We're guides through the process. So getting back to that original example, of course, the realtor, would you want a financial advisor who fails at all of the investments that he makes handling your money? Of course you wouldn't. You want somebody who makes a lot of money to help you make a lot of money as well. And that's kind of the point here, is that a realtor sells homes. That's what we do. We also buy homes. We're in a lot of homes that are for sale, clearly. So we see good and bad and how to handle things and how to do things hopefully without having to do expensive things like replace countertops or, whatever that may be, even though, again, that might be needed. But try to do the things that don't cost you a lot of money first.
True. So whenever you hire a realtor to list your home, don't take personal what they tell you to do. It's just telling you what will get you more for your money. The other thing is, I tell a lot of clients that if you have a realtor come out and give you what's called a market analysis, is that the right terminology?
Yeah, competitive market analysis. Okay. We'll call it a CMA. Okay. Sometimes they're glossy, sometimes they're PowerPoints. I've even seen them with, boards and ridiculous things. Bottom line is what we're doing is we're looking at the numbers in that area. We're looking at your home through the lens of how an appraiser or how the market may look at the home given the current dynamics of the market.
So I kind of tell people that if you meet with a realtor, they come out and then they give you a high number of what you need to do. Let's say that you have to do like paint, carpet, possibly a roof or air conditioner or something like that. It might be best to hold off on listing that home and doing like a home equity to go ahead and get that project completed prior to listing your home.
That's huge.
One moment.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Once that home is listed, you cannot do a home equity loan. Just remember that. Once it's listed, you cannot do a home equity loan. Prior to, you can.
This is huge. What an incredibly important point. Is that the realtor's mission, if you tell them you want to sell your home, is to get the home on the market as quickly as possible on your behalf. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. So we don't drag our feet. We don't slow it down. We work. Time is of the essence. We're here to do what you need us to do as quickly as you need us to do it. So that is something important if you're a seller to keep in mind, in that have the discussion with your realtor and then say, what are the things that I have to do? Let's say we have to replace the countertops for whatever reason. That can be expensive, and you may not just have that ability to write a check for that. So at that point in time, you're going to want to have a conversation with your lender, Staci, and ask what kind of equity loan, or how could I, facilitate getting this larger project done while still doing, you can handle all the free things like cleaning up and organizing and removing pictures from the wall and getting rid of the LCADs, et cetera. But the countertops will be, a lot of money. And so you're going to have to think about that. Involving your lender should be involved in pretty much every decision all the time. So
I was going to bring up, not to cloud the issue, but when he brought up having to do countertops, I'm going to say something he probably won't agree with, being a realtor. If I were if I were selling my home and a realtor came to me and said I needed to do an extensive repair and I didn't want to do a home equity loan to do that repair, I would ask them to list my home as a renovation loan, which means whoever buys my home can make their own improvements based onto a purchase of that home. You can actually purchase a home on a renovation loan, and I would personally, that's what I would do.
So from a lot of work that needs to be done, if it's something as simple as countertops, I'm going to offer, and remember, there's different situations that can end up differently, but my advice is usually general in nature. Listing your home as a renovation project will attract people, but usually it's people looking for a wholesale price or a much lower price than whatever the market would bear, because most people prefer to have a home that's move-in ready, that they can put their stuff in and not have to worry about a large project. So I would say that unless, again, it's extensive, go ahead and make the smaller repairs if you can ahead of time. That way your home sells at retail, meaning as much as the market will bear versus automatically coming up as a discount. Does that make
But are
sense?
you aware you can do a renovation loan on a purchase?
Sure,
Okay.
because I'm married to you.
Okay, but you wouldn't have known.
No, not normally.
So anyway, guys, so today, I know we kind of got all over the place, but what you need to do prior to listing your home, obviously, is what Mike talked about. And then can you have a home without selling your other home? DM us any questions you have. Please follow us, and hopefully we will get you more information and make it better each time.
Bye, guys.